I got to ask this. You're the starter of the train?
Yes, I created the train videos.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
I've been hearing about this Coon train thing for a while, and I think one of my staff members found it and showed it to me. That's an excellent idea.
Yeah.
How did you come up with that, and why?
I would just see a lot of people, whenever black topics come up, the white supremacists are very good at deflecting, so they would usually get black people to do the white supremacist rhetoric for them so that the white supremacists could not be called racist. So that's what I call the train, black people who will jump in front of white supremacists and protect them by spewing out a bunch of white supremacist talking points like, what about black on black crime? Well, all white people are not bad. All white people are not racist. Black people need to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. So that's what the train is, basically a bunch of black people who are put in front of the masses by the white supremacists to regurgitate white supremacist talking points so that the white supremacists won't be labeled as racist.
So if I hear you correctly, a Coon is a black person, right?
No. See, certain words have different definitions based on who's saying it. When a black person calls somebody a Coon, it's based on an action. That's a verb. The white supremacists, all black people are to the white supremacists. So it's a noun to the white supremacists. But when a black person says it, it's talking about an action that a person is taking. So cooning is a verb.
Oh, and are there white?
Well, you don't have white people who go off code too much because of somebody who's really jumping in front of people who are trying to sabotage their race and protecting the people who are trying to sabotage their particular race. So you very rarely have white people who do that with the white community. You understand what I'm saying? There was a video that came out recently of a guy who called himself a redneck, and he's a white gentleman, and he was calling out white supremacy, which is very rare, but it was a very good thing that he did that. And a lot of people criticized him within the dominant white society. So white people are criticized for speaking against systematic white supremacy, just like a lot of black people are criticized for speaking out against what some would consider.
So a coon is a black person who jump on black and white issues, and they seem to be supporting the white folks.
It's basically a black person who's trying to get brownie points, or who's paid, or who's just trying to get a pat on the head from the dominant white society by throwing other black people under the bus. That's the working definition of what a coon is when it comes from the black community.
And most of the times, the coon is disagreeing with most black Americans on certain issues.
But the coon is agreeing with most white supremacists, though. So the coon is not doing anything that's particularly radical or outside of the box. The coon is basically regurgitating centuries-old talking points that the white supremacists have put out there, like black people don't have no morals, black people don't have no family values. Those are old white supremacist taglines that they've used to subjugate black people.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, when black people start saying that, that's basically a form of, because they're just trying to get brownie points from the white supremacists.
The black people who are, quote unquote, do they attack the blacks who are not in the same manner that the blacks attack the cooners?
I don't understand. What's the
Let's
question?
say that the blacks who are disagreeing with black Americans say that black people need to do this and do that to get better. Do those blacks attack other blacks in the same manner that they are being attacked?
Yeah, well, the thing is, there's a difference between attacking and criticizing, because I criticize a lot of stuff that goes on in the black community, but I don't do it for the entertainment or the betterment or the enjoyment of the dominant white society. I do it because I want the black community to be better. A lot of times black people will get in front of white people and say, hey, look at those blacks over there. They need to do better. So basically, they're just trying to get brownie points, and they're not even speaking constructively to try to really help the black community. They're just trying to get that pat on the head from the dominant white society.
So I'm on your train.
Yes, you are. You were on the first one. You were getting it in on the first one, too. Yes.
And the thing I like about being on there, you really have me dancing really well.
You were getting it in.
And the last time I've been able to dance that good was in my 20s.
Oh, there you go.
So I do appreciate that. I say that most black Americans, not all, but most, are suffering due to the lack of moral character and not white racism, in that the family is destroyed. black men are not there for the most part married to the black woman, and they are raising their children in the right way to go.
Okay, now can we unpack that?
Yeah.
Okay. The thing is, the is trying to say that the family breakup is the reason why there's so much degradation going on in the black community. And the so-called family breakup only happened in the 1960s, really right after 1964. Before 1964, the majority of black families were together.
Right.
And you still had to deal with white supremacy. Back going to the 1950s, the 1940s, the 1920s, the early 1900s, there was a still disproportionate high crime rate. Black people were still funneled in what's called ghettos, especially during the first Great Migration when black people moved to the northern cities. They were living in the ghetto area, so to speak, because the white people moved out of those areas because of segregation. So black people, even when the family is together, we still have to deal with white supremacy. And unfortunately, brothers such as yourself, you guys just totally ignore the factor of white supremacy and just try to blame it on something that happened later on down the line, which the whole family breakup was because of systematic white supremacy as well.
I grew up in, you probably know this already, but for those who might not be aware of it, I grew up down in Alabama. We were just talking about during the break, you lived there for a while in Birmingham.
Yep.
But I grew up in Alabama, and I grew up under the Jim Crow laws.
Absolutely.
I remember for colors only signs, for whites only. Went to a movie theater once down in Eufaula, Alabama, and blacks had to sit in the balcony because we were not allowed to sit with white Americans. But the thing that we had going for ourselves as black folks during those days is that the family was together. Husband and wives were together. They taught their children how to respect themselves and others. They worked hard. They saved their monies. They had businesses. Even during those days, many black people owned land.
Absolutely.
And all those things. And it wasn't until the Civil Rights Movement started and under Lyndon B. Johnson that the government came in and offered black people welfare. You know, we're going to take care of you. You're not able to do it yourself.
But why did black people have to take welfare?
Yeah, I'm going to answer that in a minute. And so, but they said you cannot have a father in the home.
Absolutely.
And they did that because they understood that if you remove the father from the family, there is no spiritual head or protection or provider for the women and children, and that they will, for the most part, have to end up on welfare, being on the government. And that's when the breakdown started. But when the family was together, you didn't have crime in the black community such as we see today. You didn't have out-of-wedlock birth such as we see it today. And
we didn't have out-of-wedlock birth, but we did. The crime rate was still disproportionately high. See, that's something that a lot of people overlook.
No, you're making a good point.
Right, because you had all black chain gangs going all the way back to the 1920s. So the black crime rate was higher. Why was it higher? Not because of the family breakup. More things were illegal for black people to do. If black people, there's a sign, there's a drinking fountain sign right here I'm looking at. If we drank out of a water fountain, that was illegal. If we looked out of a window, that was illegal as black people.
Black people did better because those type of situations forced blacks to stick together as a family unit, to have
but
faith. But
even though we stuck together, we were still criminalized, weren't we?
Yeah, it was rough in that, the laws were against us, but because the family unit, that order of God was there, God in Christ, Christ in man, man over woman, woman over children, the family did better as far as economically than they are today because their father was there. Now up north,
but how can you? But in a system of white supremacy, doing better, we need to eradicate the system of white supremacy. Like Malcolm X said, "Don't stick a knife in my back 9 inches, pull it out 6 inches, and say that's progress." The knife is still in our back, sir.
Well, Malcolm X did say that when he had anger against the white man, he joined the Nation of Islam. But once he
who wouldn't have anger over Jim Crow at the time?
I know, but let me make the point.
Right.
Once he went over to Mecca, he realized that there are all people who are working together and some are not, right? And he realized that the white man wasn't his enemy, so he dropped that anger. He came back, and he started to expose the Nation of Islam founder, and the name will not come to me right now, as cheated with these women in his religious
just like
organization.
JFK did with Marilyn Monroe and all those people too, which people like to leave out.
But according to Malcolm X, his life was threatened, and according to his book, he was taken out by the Nation of Islam. My point is, up north, you're right. When blacks moved from the south to the north, they did move into those projects. And
no. When they moved to the north, they were put into the project. They didn't move into it. They were put into the project by the government.
But why did the black man allow that to happen?
We're under military control. We've been outgunned. He didn't. It's not that you allowed it to happen. You're outgunned in this country. We're subjects of white supremacy. We've been militarily defeated. So you can say, I'm not going to allow this to happen. But when the U.S. they pull out the tanks and the guns on you, what are you going to do?
So are you saying that blacks, when they moved from the South, were forced into ghettos, into those projects by the military?
Yes, absolutely.
The military,
the government, which is backed by the military.
I noticed that my parents...
Tulsa, Oklahoma is a great example, by the way. Tulsa was a very prosperous area where black people were millionaires, black people were doing great, and the white supremacists came and just tore the community down. The government flew in planes and actually bombed the place. So the government is definitely part of that. The subjugation of African people whenever we have progress. And also whenever there were prosperous areas in the black communities, they would just build freeways right through these areas, just especially out here in Los Angeles. They built freeways through the Central Avenue district, which was a prosperous African-American district.
My parents moved to East Chicago and Gary, Indiana. My uncles and aunts moved up there from Alabama. And none of them moved into the project. They all had their own homes. They all were working. My mother had 9 kids, and she stayed home throughout the whole time of raising them.
When was this?
This was, let me see, I left in 68. So this was during the 50s and 60s.
Okay.
And none of my relatives lived in the project. They all bought homes. They worked at the steel mill, Inland Steel, and other places. They did not end up in the project because my father and my stepfather and my uncles and aunts would not allow that to happen. Why did the black man, you saying the military forced the rest of them into the project?
Government, which is backed by the military. I'm talking about the government, the U.S. government. For example, after World War II in the 1950s, the government specifically gave VA loans and FHA loans to white people and denied black people systematically of those loans. And this created so-called white flight, which was government-backed. So white people were allowed to move into the so-called suburb areas. These leasing agreements were specifically stating that black people couldn't move
I've never
there.
heard that the military made them do that. But let me ask you this.
It's militarily backed, sir. That's
because of time. Are the blacks who make it on their own, they think for themselves, is it hard to believe that black people...
That's your definition, by the way. Your definition.
Is it hard to believe that there are black people who can think and do for themselves and see what's wrong and express it without being a coon?
But how do you think for yourself when you're regurgitating white supremacist talking points?
So I'm asking first, is it a black person who thinks and do for themselves, or
no?
Is it possible for black people to do that without being a coon?
Well, you can think for yourself, but regurgitating white supremacists, because you're regurgitating white supremacist talking points and you're not thinking for yourself. You're becoming a puppet for white supremacy.
Give me an example of thinking for quote unquote white supremacists.
Well, we're regurgitating white supremacist talking points.
Like
again,
what,
the whole
example?
Family structure. That's a white supremacist talking point.
Okay, let's deal with that. Hold on. Let's deal with that one thing.
Let's deal with that.
Is the family structure broken in a bad way in the black community?
It's broken nationwide.
In the black community, right?
In the black community, it is broken.
Right.
Since 1964.
And so why is it coonery to say that?
Because it's coonery to say that that's the only problem, and it's not racism.
No
because
one
that's
said
what you
that's
said.
the only
You
problem.
did say
It's the number one problem.
But you said it wasn't racism. You said it wasn't white racism. It's the black family structure.
Right.
But the problem with the black family structure is because of white racism. And also, when the black family was together, we still had to deal with white racism. So
why don't you?
My question is, why don't you ever criticize white supremacy? In your eyes, can white people do any wrong?
And I'll answer that, but I want to ask this. I will answer that.
Yeah, you keep deflecting, brother.
Yes, whites can do wrong. But my focus is to wake up black Americans to rebuild the family, to get away from the government, to start, as we did prior to the Civil Rights Movement, doing for themselves.
But we still have to deal with white supremacy. We can do that, but after we do that, what are we going to do about white supremacy?
What is the best way to deal with quote-unquote white supremacy?
Black empowerment.
And what is black empowerment?
Economic empowerment. That's one thing that
right,
we
to build
left.
family, build character, build your own
Build
businesses.
your own economics, exactly.
Right.
And we have to understand that the white supremacists, they've always sabotaged that in the black community. So that's something that we can't ignore. We can't just say, well, it's just the family we need to build up. When we build up the family, what are we going to do about the white supremacists out here?
No.
Trayvon Martin didn't get shot because of a family structure.
I want to just ask
Walter Scott didn't get shot because of a bad family structure. Jordan Davis didn't get shot because of a bad family structure. We're dealing with a system of white supremacy.
Oh, that's a good point you're making. Had Trayvon Martin parents, Michael Brown parents been married?
They were married, but they got divorced and he was staying with his dad.
Had they stayed together and had they raised their children in a good way to respect themselves and others and
So
taught them
you saying Trayvon Martin got shot because he didn't respect himself?
My question is, would
you ignore it?
Let's do Michael Brown first.
Oh no.
Okay,
Let's go back to Trayvon.
Would Trayvon have been smoking pot, calling himself a thug?
Did that get him shot? Was that why George Zimmerman killed him? Smoking pot should not get you killed.
Had they had a strong family and a good father they respected.
He had a father, sir. He was staying with his father.
No, he was staying with different people.
He was staying with his father. He was at his father's house.
But my question is,
you deflected.
No, my question is, had they had good fathers and mothers guiding them who stayed together and raised their children?
Had he not been shot by a suspected white supremacist, he would be alive. Had he not been shot by a suspected white supremacist,
I'm trying to ask about the coonery thing.
Okay.
Had the family been tighter and stayed together and raised their children, would Trayvon Martin and others been different types of people?
Well, no matter what type of person he was, he
as
shouldn't have
been
killed.
character.
A kid shouldn't have been killed
answer
by
that question only about character.
Your character has nothing to do with you getting shot by some psychopath.
I'm asking, would they have been young men of character?
Your character has nothing to do with you getting killed by a psychopath.
Well, that's put aside. Would they have been men of character? Because you're saying that we are
Sir, that's like asking me if the people in Germany, if they just would have pulled their pants up, would they not have been slaughtered in the Holocaust?
Why would you answer that question?
Because it's a question that literally makes no sense. It makes zero sense.
Let me ask this.
And you know it don't make no sense. It's a deflection, Jesse.
So you don't think having
you being messy, Jesse.
You think having a father and a mother together raising you and setting a good example is not a good thing?
I didn't say that. You keep trying to. Thing? It's a great thing.
Okay. Let me ask this.
But what about white supremacy?
I don't deal with white supremacists. I don't know what you mean by that because I've seen growing up. Let me ask you the question. I have seen growing up with white.
You don't know what white supremacy is, brother.
I'm trying to answer the question.
Okay.
When I was growing up, white supremacists was alive and well.
Right.
And yet we did better because we had family, we had fathers and mothers. We were taught to work hard, manage our lives, and we did better then than black folks are doing today.
How so? How so? How did you do better?
Tighter families.
But you would get lynched at the drop of a hat.
No,
brother. You would get lynching was at an all-time high.
Not at all
yes,
time.
It was at
but
an
that's
all-time
not today.
high.
But I want to ask
you, and you couldn't go. You were suffocated. You couldn't go to certain places.
I need to ask you this because when we come back, we got to take some calls.
Okay.
Do you love do people who attack black conservatives? They're called Coons and Niggers and Uncle Toms and sellout. Do you love the?
Do I love the Coons? Well, I don't. What kind of questions are these? Do I love?
Yes.
For what? Why would I love a coon?
Is that a yes or no?
I don't love no coon.
You hate the coons?
I don't hate them. I don't love them. I want the coons to get away because.
Do you about the coons
I
at all?
do not. No, I don't. I don't really care about.
But why not?
Because have always sabotaged black progress.
But suppose
we could have been out of antebellum slavery because we're still in a form of slavery. White supremacy is slavery within itself, but the first stage of slavery, which was antebellum slavery, we could have got out of it long ago if it weren't for the telling and snitching and being comfortable in that position.
But suppose the don't know that they're wrong. Why not show them love so that you can correct them?
So I got to hug a.
You're a pastor. You're a preacher.
I am, but I'm not
trying
to
show love. We're not talking about hugging and kissing.
Jesus rebuked the demons, and that's the demons, and I'm rebuking the demon and the spirit.
But
just
you
like
don't
Jesus
do you love the?
I don't love the.
You don't love the.
No,
but Jesus loved the.
No, but Jesus ran people out of the temple when
Back
they weren't.
in a moment. Amazing. And don't forget to like, follow, tweet, subscribe, and share the Jesse Lee Peterson radio show, folks. We really appreciate it. We are at war. It is a spiritual battle for the soul of America. And it's going to take all of us to do it.